Yeah, once we start doing the work, it's absolutely focused. The work is the work. We're in the process, and and I invite everybody to tune in and piggyback with us, and really combine with us in this healing process.
Great. So it's time. So I'm just going to get started because I am so eager to be able to introduce everybody to Judith Swack. She is an amazing practitioner and magician, and well, maybe I shouldn't say magician, but practitioner. And this is something that she and I have been planning for a while. And so I'm really excited. My name is Tom Altaffer, for those of you who don't know me. And I'm a psychotherapist, I'm a coach, I'm a trainer, and I'm the developer of a process called Ask and Receive, along with my wife, Pam, and my partner, Sandy Radomski. So I've been in this field of energy medicine, energy psychology for about 30 years. I just think it's the most amazing thing on the planet right now. And the way in which I got this idea of bringing Judith here in order to talk with all of us was I was presenting with my wife and my partner Sandy in Canada, and I had the chance to sit in on one of Judith's classes. And as I was sitting in the class, she was sitting there transforming personality structures. And I was just blown away by what she was doing. And not only by what she was doing, but by the effects that it was having on the people who were transforming. And so I got the chance, because it was a small conference that we were at, I got the chance to be able to talk with her later. And I invited her to come and work with a class that I teach online. And she said, okay. And so she demonstrated on me and on several other people in the class how this all worked. And I was so amazed and impressed that I thought, well, we got to bring this out to the world. So I am not an internet marketer. I am a therapist at heart, but I am trying to figure out how to do all of this. So I'm glad that everybody has been somewhat forgiving that these emails and everything that go out are maybe not exactly perfect, but I'm just really excited to bring you Judith Swack. Now, Judith, who you're going to hear from in just a moment, she is a biomedical scientist. She is a healer. She's a visionary. And she's also the developer of something called Healing from the Body Level Up, or HBLU. And just about anybody in the energy psychology field has heard of this. And it's just really exciting. She's going to talk to you about this too. And I just want you to know that she is very famous in the world of energy psychology. And she's the winner of the ASEP Award in 2015 for the major contributions to the field of energy psychology. So Judith, I wonder whether you could maybe describe a little bit more about HBLU and then sort of this whole process.
All right, so healing from the body level up. The concept is that we all have a soul, and it's in a physical body. So far, so good, right? And because I'm a scientist, I think in questions. So I wondered why we have souls in bodies. What's the point of that? So after contemplating this, and I'm not the first person who's asked this question, trust me, but I contemplated this for many years, and here's what I came up with. I think of God as an amoeba, because of course, as a biomedical scientist, I think of everything in terms of biology. So God is an amoeba of energy, and we are all pseudopod extensions. And here we are, a pseudopod extension of divine source energy in a physical body. On this planet, what are we here for? We are here to experience life in this body because we're the sensory system of God. We're the hands and eyes and ears of God, and everything that we experience gets piped in through the pseudopod extension back to the collective, amoeba. And we have access to the knowledge of the collective amoeba down into our little individual bodies. And the purpose of our being alive is to do a soul mission, experience the fullness of life, and grow and evolve. So basically, as we evolve, God evolves, right? So now that we're here to learn and grow and evolve and have a life, the question is, well, what if that's not happening? What if you're not getting good results in your career? What if you're not happy with your love life? What if you're not healthy in this body? Right? What's that about? So I realized that we had a conscious mind, which is our rational mind. We have an unconscious mind, which is a zoo in there, trust me. It's the land of imagination and creativity and feelings and myth and memory and whatnot, right? And then we have a body, hello, which is not the same thing as your unconscious mind. Your body's your body. And your body, it wants to stay alive. It wants to have pleasure. It wants to move and eat and dance and be warm and happy and what? Bodies, right? So there's your body. And then we have a soul, right? So I realized that we're a combination of conscious mind, unconscious mind, body, and soul. And for us to really accomplish what we came to accomplish and experience life the way we want to experience it, all levels of our being have to align and work together. Well, there's the challenge now, isn't it? Because often people find that they're stuck. Why? Because their conscious mind intends to do one thing, and meanwhile their behavior does something else. Or they wish they didn't feel like this when they do feel like that, and they can't talk themselves out of feeling like that. So I call it looking under the hood. So what is causing the interference? What's blocking you? So I spent years mapping the blocks. And some of them are from life experience damage, phobias, traumas, limiting beliefs, dysfunctional family system patterns, bad habits that you acquire from life. But I also found that there were patterns blocking you in your personality structure, your ego system. And I learned about the personality structure from a colleague of mine, Andy Hahn, who trained with me and had done a lot of spiritual training. And he said to me, Judith, he's a clinical psychologist, Judith, the ego is its own territory, and you need to learn the Enneagram. So I learned the Enneagram from him, and there are 9 different types. And as we were exploring the strengths and weaknesses of our types and looking at the compulsions, the drivenness in our personality structures, and how much energy there is in the ego, one day in the class that we were doing, somebody said, all right, now we understand each other, but what do we do about it? So Andy thought about it, and he remembered a spiritual teaching from Thich Nhat Hanh that said that the way to transformation is to walk through the void. So we realized that the personality structures were made of fear and shame, and they're very dense. They have a lot of power. Now remember, people believe what they feel, even if it's not true. Remember that. People believe what they feel, even if it's not true, and feelings run behavior. Anybody who's ever had a craving can tell you feelings run behavior, right? So it turns out that these Enneagram structures have a tremendous amount of energy in them. We call them the volcano. And Andy figured out that you could converse with the energy and the fear and the shame and the story in your Enneagram, and then pull it out of you, pull the energy of it out with the story that goes with the energy, and then step through it. Walk through the void, walk through the fear, step through it. And by stepping through it, he meant radiate it with your soul energy, and it would release. So he came up with what he called the essence process. And then I basically mapped, because I'm the scientist mind. So I mapped how it's structured. I'm the structure goddess. And I mapped the structures and I mapped the code and I started writing the code. And you're going to see code today. And we're going to upgrade code using the essence process. So personality, it really has a lot of effect. Now, if you think about it, here we are embodied in physical form. And it turns out that the personality structure, the ego structure, is downloaded at conception when the soul enters the body. So you are born with your type. You're born with your type. And what I found is that each soul has one soul mission. Every lifetime, it's the same soul mission. But how they perform their soul mission varies by the hand they've been dealt for that lifetime. So you come into this lifetime and you've got a body and a gender and a soul, and you're downloaded a particular Enneatype for that lifetime. And then you have skills and abilities and talents, and you're born in a certain time frame or era or location, geographical location. So that opens up opportunities for you in some areas that you wouldn't have in other areas, so on and so forth. And this is the deck, this is the hand you've been dealt from the deck. And so you take this and you want to play to your strengths, and then you want to upgrade or compensate for your weaknesses. Got that?
Judith?
Yes.
Could you tell also maybe, and I don't want to interrupt you because you're doing such a great job, but something about how these Enneatypes are like the operating system. I love the way you talk about that.
Oh, right. So let me start sharing some slides here.
Sure.
Because I'm all technological now.
All right.
Share screen. Okay, here we go. All right, so the Enneagram system, there are 9 different types. The Enneagram 1 is called the perfectionist. The Enneagram 2 is called the helper-giver. The Enneagram 3 is called the achiever or the succeeder. The Enneagram 4 is called the tragic romantic or the individualist. The Enneagram 5 is called the observer. The Enneagram 6 is the loyalist or the devil's advocate. The 7 is the optimist, the dreamer, the visionary. And the 8, the boss, the protector, the asserter. And the 9 is the mediator, peacekeeper. Okay. Now let's see if I can go down. Yes. And it's the Enneagram system is divided into 3 different centers. There's the head center, which is the thinking center. And the 5, 6, and 7s dominantly use their heads. They're rational, they're logical, their go-to is their head. They think a lot. The heart center is the emotion center. And it's the dominant center of the Enneagram 2, 3s, and 4s, which you're going to be working with today. And this is the center where they have feelings. They tune to their feelings first, then they think about it, then they do something. But everything is about feeling. They make emotional connections with people. This is how you make relationships, is through feelings. It's a beautiful thing. The gut center, the gut, is the doing center. It's the dominant center for the Enneagram 8s, 9s, and 1s. And these people go off and start doing things before they've thought it through completely, and then they feel about it afterwards, right? If it makes sense, they just go off and do it. So you can see how ultimately, spiritually, evolutionarily, you want to be able to use all 3 centers evenly at the same time and be able to access whichever center you need for this particular context. So part of upgrading the code in each type is to be able to balance their centers so they have access, so they can think and feel at the same time. so they can do something that's well thought out and feels right at the same time, right? So, and you all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Where you use one center more than another, and then you sort of, it's out of balance and it's awkward. So my revolutionary finding was that the Enneagram personality structure is programmed like the operating system of a computer. So think about this. When you're using a computer, and everybody right now is using a computer, you type, you see pictures on the screen, and you don't think about, you know what, this is a Windows operating system, or this is a Macintosh operating system. And there is programming in the operating system so that when I touch a key, it makes a letter show up on my screen. There's programming that does that. This is the level of machine programming or assembly language, that kind of languaging. But if you have a bug in your operating system, you push a button and the screen doesn't come up, or you go to move your mouse and it doesn't move, then you can't use the machine. On the other hand, if you have a word processing program on the machine and an Excel spreadsheet and a slideshow program and a accounting program, if you have a problem in the software, that's like your unconscious mind. So that particular program doesn't work properly, then you're aggravated, you call the company, you have them send you an update. But the rest of your computer works fine, right? But if you have a problem in your operating system, nothing works fine. You understand?
Right.
So if you think about it, the operating system, the bugs in the operating system are much more problematic than a lot of the junk you pick up during life experience. I'm just saying.
Well, and it means that some things stand out more depending on your operating system. Some things don't stand out so much. So it's just like with a Mac, you know, it runs certain things really well, but it won't run those Windows programs or the other way around. And so I think that that's a really good metaphor that you're using to be able to see, okay, these structures are running there from conception. So of course that's going to filter what your experience is.
Absolutely. And I'm sure that you've wondered, how is it that two people can have the same experience and then perceive it so differently, and react to it so and interpret it so differently? It's because they're processing it through the called lens of personality. And the thing is, since it's your operating system, it shows up everywhere.
Right.
Everywhere. And it has major themes. So I'm going to talk about the structure of a layer of code. I've upgraded 300 plus layers of code in my operating system. At this point, I can think and feel and do all at the same time. I can get along with any other type. I started out originally as an Enneagram 8. I was a gut-centered type. And I can sit with any other type, step into their frame, relate to them through their center, and it's very easy and natural to me, right? So I'm very calm to be around because my code is working. And so I'm going to show you what a layer of code looks like. So it's a polarity structure. It's a coin with two faces, plus and minus. And what happens is the two sides struggle back and forth with each other. So you just end up going round and round. So let me show you this. So one layer of code, just one layer of code. Remember, I quit counting at 330. One layer of code has an energy. Remember, energy somewhere in your body. And the central identity. Remember, these are ego structures. You think this is your identity. You think this is you, even though your soul and the essence of you is actually you. You fall into your ego structure, which vibrates at a lower level, but still has a lot of energy, and you believe it is you. So tragically, who you think is you is something horrible. So the central identity is negative. And what it says is, you are horrible. Like 330 different ways of horribleness. Yes, and counting. And furthermore, this one horrible thing is the only truth about you, the universe, everybody else, and God. And furthermore, you are the only being in the whole universe who this horrible thing is true about. Don't you know? Great, lucky us, huh? Now, on the flip side, we have a compensating energy. The compensating energy could be in the same place in your body. It could be in a different place in your body, but it's the flip side of the same coin. And it says, it's my job to prove that the negative is wrong and to hide it or get rid of it. Right? So now you see this constant conflict. And the way that the compensating energy wants to do that is by being arrogant, which is the opposite positive. Use other people to make your case and prove your point. Avoidances. Let's just avoid the issue. Justify. In other words, justify and rationalize and spin the negative into something positive. Or miscellaneous strategies depending on which layer of code you're working with and the individual. But when you talk to the positive side and you ask, what's your worst fear? The worst fear is no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try to compensate, it will not work 100.00% of the time. And so the worst fear on the positive side is the central identity is right. It's the only truth. So there you have it. These two go at each other. And even worse, the negative side laughs at the positive side and says, ha, 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 anything you do to prove me wrong is nothing but a fraud and a sham, because see above, I'm the only truth. So people walk in and they say, they hang their head in shame, right? Judith, I feel like such a fraud. And I go, okay, what layer of code are we going to upgrade today? Today you're a fraud, what? Fill in the blank. And I laugh. Okay? Now, it really, I really liked it when we upgraded Tom's layer of code. And what he said was, oh, you found this deep, dark secret that I was hiding that I thought nobody ever knew about. Right, Tom? Do you remember that?
Right. Right.
Well,
And kind of I didn't know about it either. That's what was even more cool to me, because I've been doing this kind of work for a long time. And it was like this blob form that you found that sort of made me feel like, oh, what's the point? Because I'm a 9. And so it was like, there it was. And we were able to sort of extract it. And I didn't ever know it was there, but I sure knew when it wasn't there. That was the dramatic.
Well, that's a really good point. You see, this is ego structure. It's buried more deeply than even the unconscious mind. So your conscious mind has no awareness that it's running. Just like when you use a computer, your conscious mind doesn't think, oh, I pressed this key and there's an operating system that's making the key put the letter on it. No, you don't think about that. It's invisible to you consciously. And not only is this buried more deeply than your unconscious mind, and it's hard enough for your conscious mind to communicate with your unconscious mind, but also, look at it is programmed to hide itself, because the compensating energy's job is to hide the central ID. So not only is it buried deeper, but it's programmed to hide itself. Great. So when people begin to think about these layers of code consciously, they have to really move to a higher level of consciousness to even begin to see this, because this is hidden. So usually what people notice consciously is they notice the compulsive behaviors on the compensating energy. They notice how they do this compulsively. They notice how they worry about this or act like that. And that's the first clue to them that there's consciously a problem, because they're trying too hard to do something, and it's black and white and very driven, but they just aren't consciously aware of what's driving it. So it's a very interesting structure.
And also, one of the other things that I've learned from Judith is that because I had tried to work on Enneagram structures using other energy therapies before, and I was targeting the limiting beliefs of the various structures. And what I found was that it seemed like things would shift for a little while and then go back to the way they were. And what Judith said is the reason that that happens is because you have to take the whole thing out. You can't just go for one or two limiting beliefs, and it doesn't work that way. Are you going to talk about that at all, or?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
So basically, this is a lens of personality. Mm-hmm. It sets your sense of identity and your worldview, and it shows up everywhere. And I also originally thought the way Tom did. When Andy brought it to my attention that we have to come up with a different kind of technique to process ego structure, I said, but Andy, I think we can just use tapping. We know the themes, we know the behaviors, we know the fears. Let's just bring them up and tap them. So what I noticed was, and of course I had to experiment. Everything in my life is an experiment, right? For a year and a half, I experimented. I had a woman come in with headaches. What's triggering the headache? I'm bad. She's an Enneagram 1. I'm bad. So, okay, why are you bad? Well, because I didn't finish my assignment on time. Okay, so we tapped that out, and she felt better, and the headache went away. 2 weeks later, she comes back. I'm bad, and I have a headache. Well, why are you bad now? I'm bad because I didn't do this. And so I kept chasing it around. I noticed it was like brush fire. You put it out here, it shows up there. You put it out here, it shows up there. It just shows up everywhere. And finally, I said to Andy, yeah, you're right. It's running at a different level. It needs a different technique. And we came up with this. So the energy techniques don't work for identity. You have to use a higher vibrational technique, and the essence process works very well. So I'm going to talk about the mythic extreme. I want you to understand how much energy there is. Now remember, you believe what you feel. The more strongly you feel something, the more you believe it, and the more it runs your behavior. Got that? So I'm going to give you an example of the mythic extreme of one layer of code. I like to use the Enneagram 1 example because it's very simple. Central ID. Let's say it's in the stomach. I'm bad. Okay, you speak to the energy in the stomach. How bad are you? I am worse than Satan. Okay, how bad is that? If I did not exist, there would be no evil in the universe. Okay, can you get more extreme than that? I don't think so. I can't stretch my mind to anything more extreme than that. But why is it if I did not exist, there'd be no evil in the universe? Because remember, the central ID says I'm the only one. I'm the only one. So she's bad. And she's the only one. And if she did not exist, there'd be no evil in the universe. Okay, it's okay. Mind stretch. Okay, so what's the opposite side? What's the opposite of bad? I'm good. Okay, that might be in the heart. Okay, how good are you? I'm gooder than God. Obviously, you have to match the polarities, right? Well, what do you mean by that? Well, obviously, if I created the universe, it would be perfect like this and perfect like that. You know, clearly, I am gooder than God, because look at this mess. Obviously, right? And then they use other people's strategies. I'm the good girl. I'm the good boy. I do my homework on time. I go to church every week. I do volunteer work. Everybody says, what a good girl she is. Right? Avoidances. I never do anything bad. I don't drink. I don't have sex out of marriage. Right? Justification. And this is a direct quote from somebody. justification. It's a good thing I'm bad sometimes because it makes me more compassionate towards my clients when they make bad decisions. And now we're all going, oh, yeah, it's a good thing. Worst fear in the heart, worst fear. Actually, I'm bad. That's all I am. I'm badness incarnate. All right. So no wonder it's buried. No wonder it tries to be covered. You know, when I started mapping these extreme negative stories, I thought, wow, if we didn't have a compensating energy to bury this and keep it in balance, we'd all kill ourselves. This is my hypothesis. Suddenly, I got a phone call from a former client of mine who said she felt suicidal. Okay, what's going on? So she starts telling me how she's been feeling and what she's been thinking. And I said, oh, well, that's this layer of the Enneagram wound. And the compensating energy for that is blah, blah, blah. And she said, well, yeah, I used to compensate, but then my boyfriend beat it out of me. Now, I don't think she meant he physically beat it out of her, but obviously her compensating strategies were so annoying to him that he yelled at her about it and she stopped doing them. But little did she realize consciously that then she was leaving a naked central ID. Then I said, what else is up? So she told me another thing. I'm like, oh, well, that's another layer of the Enneagram wound. And here's the central ID that I'm hearing you speak. But here's how you compensate typically. She says, yeah, I used to do that, but my boyfriend beat that out of me. And then what else? Then she had a third central ID. And the compensating strategies were annoying her boyfriend. He beat them out of her. And suddenly, so we did some muscle testing, which we're going to be doing today, muscle testing. And we talked to her soul, and her soul said she had 3 naked central IDs. She called me up. She was suicidal. Now, I don't know how she processed the compensating energies because they don't go away. She didn't do tapping, but it turns out that she was doing a meditative practice. I think she was doing Buddhist chanting or something. And apparently, Buddhist chanting vibrates at the spiritual level. And so what was up in her field was how annoying these habits were that were displeasing her boyfriend. And she must have been thinking about them while she was doing Buddhist chanting. So she processed the compensating energies and left the naked central IDs because she didn't consciously know that it was a polarity and you have to get both sides. Anyway, we just did one session. We pulled out the remaining 3 central IDs, processed it with the essence process, and boom, she was fine. So a lot of energy here, and you want to get both sides.
So Judith, I think everybody is dying to see this in action.
Right.
And to be, so maybe we can talk about the layer that you're going to be focusing on and introduce the people who are going to be our volunteers and, you know, see what happens.
Yes. Okay. So let's lay concept here. So you've got all these layers of code with cockamamie stories. We've got the I'm bad, I'm worse than Satan thing. The layer we're going to do today is I'm void, invisible, and needy. I don't even exist. The location is a full body void. It goes through the entire body. It feels like you're not even here. And the 2, 3s, and 4s all run this as their dominant layer of code. I don't even exist. So they compensate in different ways, but they compensate on the same central ID. So when I have a 2, 3, or 4, we do all 3 versions at once because they're going to overlap. And in the Enneagram system, these are called the wings and arrows. If you center at a certain type, let's say you're a 2, you have wings on either side of you. You overlap with characteristics of 3, and you overlap with characteristics of 1. And the arrows are under stress. If you're a 2, you arrow into 8, which is across the circle. If you feel secure, you arrow into 4. So anyway, the 2, 3s, and 4s all overlap or wing to each other. Now, let's think about...
And just let me say that anybody who finds this confusing, Judith very kindly sent out a bunch of things for you guys to be able to read and to look at that will describe this in more detail. if you find any of this confusing.
Well, I do have a diagram on it, but I wanted to make a point first. I wanted to make a humorous point. So remember, your soul came into this body to do a soul mission and live a full life. So let's say you have this radiant, oming soul, golden light, and somebody walks up to this soul and says, "Are you more evil than Satan?" This soul's going to look at you like, "Huh?" Or you walk up to this radiant soul and you say to it, "Are you void, invisible, and needy?" This soul's going to look at you like, "What? If I'm invisible, how did you find me? Hello?" Right? And think about this. We're here to do a soul mission and evolve and experience the fullness in life. How does it help us to think we are not even here? Hello? So you can understand why when we muscle test and talk to the deepest wisdom of the true threes and fours, their soul says, "Upgrade this bug now. Thank you." Right?
Right, because it's not real.
It's not real. It's an illusion, and it's not really working for you in terms of soul throughput.
Right.
Like, how's it going to help you to think you're not here when you're here?
Right.
Okay. So I'm going to show you the layer of code because I know how to do screen share. Okay, here we go. So, and I did send this out, and everybody here I know read it. Yes? You all did your homework. So here is the diagram of the exact layer of code we're doing today. The central idea is I'm void of substance, love, energy, power, etc. I'm invisible and needy, right? I'm not even here. And then the compensating energies are the Enneagram 2s. How do you get seen? Arrogance, pride. I know what you need better than you do. So I'm going to take care of you. I'm here to help. I need nothing. I'm just here to help you. And the hope is that for the 2s, if they help somebody, somebody will notice them for what they did for them. And then they will appreciate what they did for them and fill the void with appreciation. So they get seen by doing something for somebody, and they get filled with appreciation. Because the problem here is if you're void, you need to be seen and filled. I'm void and invisible, you need to be seen and filled, right? And then, of course, use other people's strategies. I'm a chameleon, and I can do and be whatever you find attractive and pleasing. So they morph themselves into what they think you'll find pleasing, so you'll see them and appreciate them and love them. I'm helpful, giving, and generous. I give to get. So again, there's a manipulation here. I'm going to hide that I'm needy by pretending I need nothing. In fact, I'm overly generous. I'm going to give you everything you need. You don't even have to ask. And then you'll appreciate me. And you will never know that I'm needy. Brilliant, huh? And justification. Oh, of course, you have to be beautiful to be seen and filled. Everybody has to be beautiful. And justification. It's a good thing I'm needy because it makes other people feel wanted. So sometimes they act needy, but it's a good thing. And then there's miscellaneous strategies. Develop autoimmune diseases. The 2s tend to develop autoimmune diseases that create body pain to be able to feel my physicality and to get other people to take care of me for a change. But again, this energy, it's one energy, 2 faces, and the composition is fear and shame, right? Fear and shame. So even on the positive side, when you ask what's its worst fear, there's nothing here, and I'm needy. Now the 3s have to prove that they're superior by putting up an image and achieving and succeeding to be admired. And they have to be the best, and they have to come out on top. So the 3s achieve to be admired. So they tend to make money and buy tangible things that people can see their achievements by their big house, their fancy car, their designer clothes, their Rolex watch, their whatever. The public display of wealth is one of the ways that they get seen and admired. And or they avoid. I avoid people, I avoid confrontation. And sometimes they go into depression and manipulate people with their depression. It's very interesting. Worst fear is failure, because if they fail, then they'll be ignored and they will go back into the central ID and fall into the volcano and disappear. Got it? Now the fours. The fours do the same thing as the twos and threes, but they have to be worshiped for their creativity and uniqueness. So sometimes I'll see a flaming four. These are the ones with the funny hair color and the piercings here and there, and the jewelry and the funny clothes, and the I have to be different, and the drama, blah blah blah, and worship me for my creativity and uniqueness. I'm special, unique, and different. Okay. So that's that. So now what I'd like to do, now that I've basically mapped out the layer of code, I would like our guest demo subjects to talk with us a little bit about what it's like living in that story. All right, so everybody unmute. All right, Lissa, would you like to start and tell us what it's like living your life in the void, invisible, needy compensation strategies?
As you were describing the Enneagram 2, I thought about what happened in my office yesterday. I decided to arrange a luncheon for the community in my office, not as a way of, hey, let's have lunch. It was a way of, hey, look at me, and this is an awesome idea, and by the end of the day, everybody was complimenting me or thanking me, and your I give to get phrase, I totally see that from yesterday. I thought I was filling a void, and it was more of a, yay, I'm so awesome, and I'm still not convinced with that.
Exactly, because you were filling a void, but it was your void.
Exactly.
And remember, the central ID says, ha, ha, ha. Anything you do to try to prove me wrong is a fraud and a sham, because see above, I'm the only truth.
Mm-hmm.
So no matter what you do, it doesn't fill the void. It doesn't negate the central ID. It doesn't shift it.
Right.
Well, tell us a little bit about how that's run in your relationships.
Good question. In my relationships, it's a constant struggle of, am I doing the right thing? It's hard for me really to put into phrases. It's the constant need for approval and not knowing how to go about that.
And even when you get it, it's never enough, right?
Exactly.
Right. I've heard Enneagram 2s lament. There's no pleasing him. There's no pleasing her. Right? I do this, I do that, and I just never get it back enough.
Exactly.
Well, there you go. Peggy, tell us about life as a 2. Oh, can I say Peggy is a nurse? Need I say more?
Need I say more? Yes. Okay. The part when you were talking definitely about appreciation, that the need for appreciation, and I think my worst time was when my kids were like high schoolers, when they were completely unappreciative of everything. No matter what you gave them, there was no appreciation, and I think that was the biggest issue of that decade. I think more than anything else.
Right. And did you feel angry and bitter deep down?
A lot of resentment came up. Definitely resentment, holding on to things, not letting things go. Yes, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Celia, I see you nodding. Tell us about life as a two.
Well, I want to say I identified so much with what everybody else was saying. Yes, I feel, first of all, I feel I know how to save everybody's life except my own. And I really have to hold back not telling them. But, and that started, or at least I think it started, my father died when I was a teenager, and the way I dealt with it was really to take care of everybody around me rather than look at myself at all. But a lot of, and I certainly feel so much of what you're describing, but what's very interesting to me, and this is my first experience with this kind of work, is that some of the problems are like what I used as good things. Like if I had a superpower, it would be to be invisible. Because I'm so afraid of like people seeing me and blaming me. I want to do, on one hand, I want to be thanked for everything, and I resent my children terribly because children are by nature not appreciative enough, right? But also there's a part of me that is certainly ashamed of being needy, but also that it would give me kind of power. And I love being a chameleon. That's helped me be very successful in parts of my life, but I don't know that it really helps me. And at this stage in my life, I guess that's among the reasons I'm here today.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that. I'm glad you brought that up. You see, the central ID is a problem. And the compensating strategies are basically, classic. But here's the thing. You give to get. You're helpful at the cost to yourself. But you're driven to do it because you're programmed to do it. But on the other hand, let's get real. Generosity is a good thing. It's a good value. It's good to be generous. It's good to be thoughtful. It's good to be caring. So there's a strength to that compensation strategy, and there's a skill set that's very good, and it's a contribution to the collective to have people hold that value of generosity of spirit and selflessness and giving and what. It's good to hold that. The problem is, if it's programmed the way it's programmed, when you do it, it doesn't fill you and it's not satisfying. You're just driven to do it as you're driven by a negative. But the good news is that when you transform the personality structure and you recycle, you get to keep the gift of the compensation. In other words, you'll still be generous. You'll still be nurturing. You'll still be thoughtful. But you'll do it because it feels good to do it. And you won't need it to fill you. And you'll only do it when it's appropriate. You won't have to do it 24/7. You'll be able to choose when you do it. And when you do, it will be nurturing and rewarding for you because it will be unhooked from the driver, which will be processed. So you do get to keep the strengths of the type, but you don't have to anymore. It's not driven, and it comes back and feels rewarding to do it. Very different. Doesn't that sound good?
So,
I was going to say, thank you, that's marvelous. But also, the other one feels it's obviously never enough. No matter what I do, it's never enough.
Exactly. There's no belief in her. It's never enough because remember, the void says there's nothing out there that can fill me. I'm void.
excuse me, I'm sorry about this, but I just want to interrupt and have people who aren't talking mute themselves and sort of mute and unmute because we're getting feedback issues with too many people's microphones being on. And so when you talk, unmute, and then when you don't talk, mute again. That's perfect. Thank you. I'm sorry about that.
All right, now I'd like to hear from Daniel, because Daniel, it's not so much give to get, but it's mostly you have to be special, unique, and different. You have to be worshiped for your creativity. Tell us about
I always thought, well, I grew up in Japan, and I thought, I don't want to be a conformist like these Japanese people. I'm an American. And then, I came back to America, and of course, Massachusetts, real friendly people there. I had the reverse culture shock and stuff. And I always thought that, like, I missed some critical period, and I just could not pull off being Joe Sixpack. And friends of mine think I'm gratuitously odd, and I just think I just can't look like mainstream or talk mainstream or whatever. I'm multicultural, whatever. So
I love that. Gratuitously odd.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
cute. That's cute.
Yeah. I basically can't do anything with any motivation unless I put an individualized spin on things. And yeah. And some of it's been some of it has been like what do you call it? Like self like, if I had to wear a suit, I would, like, do something weird to it. So if it was almost like it's like the two stuff where I have to, or the three stuff where I have to achieve. So it would kind of like if I just didn't think I could pull off a lot of things. So I'd kind of, change it and probably self-sabotage. And then the same way, like, I would wait till night before to do a paper. And then when I got a B, I'd say, well, if I had more time, I could have got an A. I'd have an out.
That's very free-ish of you.
Yeah.
I can't fail if I don't try.
Right. Yeah. Because I got a little 3.
Yeah. 3.
I'm not sure what else.
Well, do you recognize the characteristics in the 2s also? Do you give to get? Are you generous? Looks, you have to be beautiful and attractive and handsome and.
Well, that was, I mean, it's still there, but that was a big thing for me. I was a famous child model in Tokyo. So yeah. Give to get, yeah. Sometimes I feel that way. That I'm not going to be noticed, or I'm just so odd that I'm just like so marginalized. So I have to kind of do something else. Yeah, I've had that.
So okay, so you can mute yourself now. So I've asked people. I've had clients who I said, describe to me what it feels like to be void, invisible, and needy. And I had a client say, well, it's like this, Judith. I am standing on the Boston Common on a nice day. There are a lot of people passing me by. They don't even see me. I'm transparent. I'm like a ghost. They just walk by. They don't even see me. So again, for the 2s, this layer is called I'm on the periphery. They'll walk into a room of people and feel like nobody sees them. They feel like they're on the outside of the room. And then I had a client tell me that he drew a self-portrait when he was 7 years old, a head and 2 hands. And his mother said to him, well, where's your body, honey? And he said, oh, I don't know. And he grew up and became a carpenter because he could feel his hands. And so I thought, when my daughter was born, she's an Enneagram 4. I surrogate muscle tested her. Oh my God, she's a 4. She's got void, invisible, and needy. Then I thought, no child of mine is going to walk around this life feeling completely at the mercy of everybody else's opinion of her and having to be seen through everybody else's eyes to know that she exists and has an identity. No child of mine, right? So I thought, how fast can I get this? I waited till she was 5.5 years old and could finally muscle test without wiggling. And I muscle tested from your deepest wisdom. Can we upgrade the void invisible needy layer today? And her deepest wisdom said yes. Now she's 5.5. I said to her, honey, let me explain this layer of code. And I told her, it's like you're not even there. You're a ghost. People could walk right through you. Nobody can see you. And you have to compensate by being special, unique, and different, and by pretending you have no needs, and so on and so forth. And then I said, do you know what I'm talking about? And she said, yes, Mommy. Now, 5.5, I didn't know that she really knew or understood what I was talking about. I figured she was just saying, yes, Mommy, because I was so impassioned about this. I said, okay, well, can you show me what that looks like? Just show me. This is what she did. She stood up and she started floating around the room like this. And I thought, holy cow, she knows what I'm talking about. She's accessed it. And then we transformed it that day. Then 5.5, no child of mine, right? So we started getting letters back from her teachers. She's so prepossessed. She has a mind of her own. She doesn't get pulled into the other kids' nonsense. She's so self-confident. I started getting reports back. I'm like, yes! So when Tom talked to me about sharing this work with the world, I'm like, Tom, I want to do the void invisible needy lay for the 2, 3s, and 4s.
And timing-wise, this would be the perfect time for you to jump on it in terms of our 90-minute time frame that we're trying to stick to.
All right, so basically we're going to show you muscle testing. So everybody's going to stand up, and in your brochure that you got, in your handout, it shows self-muscle testing. So everybody's going to stand up and muscle test.
And for those of you who are watching and who are attending this later on, who aren't on the screen, you can do all of this with us. The way Judith is structuring this, it's so that everybody can get benefit. Just play along with it.
All right, so everybody send the questions from your conscious mind down into your body and ask your body to show us a yes signal. Body's yes. Good. Everybody back to center. And bodies no. All right, so basically everybody could see yes was forward, no was back. Now, from your deepest wisdoms, send the question down into your soul. Does everybody understand the programming in this layer of code well enough to move to the transformation step? And does this being not understand this well enough to proceed directly to the transformation step? All right, goody. So here is the essence process. If you can recognize the layer of code, if you can have a high enough level of consciousness to see how it's running and how it's running you, if you can access the central ID, and if you can see how you compensate without falling in and arguing with it, and you see that it's an illusion, and you see that it's programming, and you get that, then all you have to do is reach into your body, pull the energy of it out, and plop it on the floor. So for a full body central ID, a full body energy, I just basically walk up, push it out of me, and jump back. I had somebody the other day who just basically went like this. She just pushed it down out of herself, out her feet onto the floor, or just push it out like this. But take that energy out of you. The void invisible needy, it's an illusion. Pull the energy out. Put it on the floor in front of you. And then pull out every way you compensated, right? The give to get, the chameleon, the have to be pleasing, have to be beautiful, have to be different, have to achieve. All of that all of that out on the floor in front of you. And then pull any life experience damage from past lives that fed this story and made it feel real. Because you see, when you don't know that there's a layer of code running, you explain these things with stories from life. Well, my father did this, my family did that, but that's not where it comes from. But if those things happen in your life, they will feed energy into the story. So take everything that fed the story and put that in the pile. We want an absolutely complete recycling of this energy. Out it goes. So pull it out. And then step away from the pile. All right, so from your deepest wisdoms, is there any remaining untransformed energy from this layer of code still in you, on you, around you, hiding in your personal fields anywhere? And is there not any remaining energy from this layer of code from your deepest wisdoms? All right, now, sometimes when there's a void, there's an external extension bubble of illusion around the central ID, like the feeling that there's nothing out there in the whole universe that can fill this void or can, love me or what. Does anybody have an external extension bubble of illusion around the central ID? All right, so basically, the bubble of illusion extends out from your body on average 3 to 10 feet. So cut your way through the bubble. Use the edge of your hand like a razor blade of light. Cut your way through the bubble and then push it behind you and push it behind you. Or in this case, if your pile's in front of you, cut your way through the bubble and then push it in front of you. So basically push it out and put it on the pile until you're out of the bubble. All right, so from your deepest wisdoms, yeah, exactly. From your deepest wisdoms, does anybody have any remaining untransformed energy from the bubble still in you, on you, around you, hiding personal field anywhere? Okay, Daniel, make sure you get your entire bubble out. Right? Part the Red Sea, cut through it, and walk out of it. Yes, exactly. Out, out, out. All right, now, the essence process goes like this. I'm going to tell you, and then we're going to do it. When all of that energy that's vibrating at this lower level is out on the floor now, and everything that feeds it is on the pile, you're going to radiate it with your soul energy. It's like microwaving it. And you're going to bring it to a higher vibration. And as you do that, the energy releases. Yay! And then you continue to expand through infinity in all directions, above you, behind you, below you. And as you expand out to infinity, now the high vibrational energy merges with your soul energy, integrates back into you, and it's released. And it has a mind of its own. It turns out these layers of code don't like being trapped in these stupid stories. And it's very happy to be freed. It's been waiting to be freed. It's rejoicing that you're freeing it. So the pure energy comes back in, integrates someplace in your body, and does something else for you. And we never know, and that's the mystery theater part. So Daniel, do you have any trace remaining of the bubble energy still in you, on you, around you, or hiding personal field anywhere? Yay! Okay. All right, so what I'd like to do is I'd like to hear from each person how you feel here, minus the bubble, minus the energy, and what the pile looks like. So Peggy, can we start with you? What does your pile, how do you feel here minus the code, and what does your pile look like? Oh, you have to turn on your microphone.
My pile looked like the placenta.
Interesting.
It
And
was,
how do you feel here minus the pile?
I felt it through just bit above the thymus and below the thyroid in this area right here.
Hmm.
So it was someplace in between.
Okay. So you might have already radiated through it, but I just wanted to know before we radiate, how do you feel minus the, yeah.
About 20 pounds lighter.
Yeah, okay. Lissa, what does your pile look like?
A bunch of heavy bricks and just junk.
Okay. And how do you feel minus that layer of code?
My legs were vibrating, and the vibration was going up my torso.
Oh, I think you radiated through it also. Okay. Celia, you know what? I think, what the heck? You get the idea. Just go ahead, radiate all the way to infinity, everybody. Let's do it. And let me know when you hit infinity, right? And remember, quantum physics, you're radiating right through it. So these are protons, neutrons, and electrons. You're radiating right through it, raising it to a higher vibration, releasing it into subatomic particles, the quarks, the muons, and then continue to radiate it, and it becomes pure energy waves. And out to infinity in all directions, above you, behind you, below you, to the sides, radiate spherically in all directions. And let me know when you've reached infinity. All right. Lissa, you reached infinity?
I think so.
Peggy, you reached infinity? All right, Daniel, you reached infinity? All right, everybody drink some water, and then we'll test it.
And again, if you're not talking, can you mute your system? Thank you.
All right. So, I can't see Daniel and Celia. Okay. Oh, good, good, good. Yes, water. It turns out you need water to integrate the energy because there's a lot of energy. All right. So everybody, muscle test and ask your deepest wisdoms. Have you fully transformed all of the matter and energy that was in that layer of code in the service of your soul? Fully transformed it. And have you not fully transformed it from your deepest wisdoms? Okay. And from your deepest wisdoms, does all right, look at the floor and see if there's anything left, any grains of sand, slime trails, grit, anything. If there's anything microscopic, okay, Celia, radiate right through what's left. Remember, we're going subatomic. Radiate right through anything that's left at all and release it out to infinity. Every last bit gets recycled. And think about it. How much energy is in these things? Think about bang for the buck. The more energy you have in the pile, the more you release, the more pure energy you get back. So think of this as a gold mine. Yes. All right, Celia, you got every last bit? Yay.
So
all right.
Judith, I just wanted to tell you that Eileen, who is watching, she responded that as we were releasing, I felt complete chills through my entire body, and then I was tingling light.
Oh my goodness, that's so beautiful. I'm goosebumpy now too. All right, so everybody tune in because you should be able to feel the vibration. There's a lot of energy there. Tune into your bodies and get a location on where you feel the vibration from the transformed energy, because now this is the fun part. That was the interesting part. This is the fun part. We are going to interview the energy. and see what it's going to do for you now that it has been freed. And we are going to ask the energy, what is its greatest hope for you now that you have recycled it? So, feel it, feel it, feel it. All right, let's start with Daniel. So, Daniel.
Hi.
Where do you feel the vibration from all that energy now?
It was second chakra to fifth chakra. So slim line, metallic.
Sweet. All right, now muscle test it and ask, does it have a greatest hope for you that it would like to share now that you've recycled it?
I actually did that already.
Oh yeah, what did it say?
Yeah. It said to have pride and it was somewhere between like a word between like bliss and glee and fun.
Oh, that's great.
Like that, yeah.
All right, Celia, let's hear what your energy had to say. Or where did it settle, and what does it have to say?
Settled here and here, really, and sort of here. And what it feels like, though, is it actually does feel the opposite of a void. It feels like, as was shared earlier, that I felt lighter in the middle of it, but I feel more kind of substantial in a really good way. And what does it have to tell me? I think just a kind of present. That's that I'm present. I'm just more present, really, which is good for me too, really. So
which is the opposite of ghost.
Sure. Thank you very much.
All right, Celia, muscle test and ask if that is in fact its greatest hope for you.
Yeah.
And from your deepest wisdom, is there anything else it wants to add about its greatest hope for you? From your deepest wisdom. All right, what else does it want to say? You're substantial, you are present. And what else does the energy want to say about its greatest hope for you now that you have freed it?
Interesting. I mean, I'm kind of, it feels kind of weird to say it out loud, but I sort of have a sense of like love.
Oh.
But I wouldn't have said that, but I feel I'm going to honestly do it. But
well,
yes,
this is the energy speaking, not you, right?
Not me, so I don't have to worry about.
No, we're just channeling what it says. So from your deepest wisdom is that part of its message. Its greatest hope for you is love. All right, then. And from your deepest wisdom, is there anything else it wants to add about its greatest hope for you? Okay, good, good. All right, so Lissa, let's talk to your energy. Where did the energy settle in you?
In my feet.
Sweet.
In my feet.
All right, let's ask. Let's muscle test and ask if that's where it settled. Did it settle in your feet?
Yes.
And
yes.
Did it not settle in your feet? From your deepest wisdoms. All right, and did it settle any place else from your deepest wisdom?
Nope.
All right, does the transformed energy have a greatest hope it would like to share with you now that you've released it?
Yes.
All right. All right, channel the message.
I'm not alone. I'm love and I'm present.
Ah. All right, is that worded properly from your deepest wisdom?
Yes.
Okay. And is it not worded properly from your deepest wisdom? And from your deepest wisdom, is there anything else that this energy wants to say about its greatest hope for you? And is there not from your deepest wisdom? All right, thank you. Peggy, let's talk to your energy. Oh, you're unmute. Okay, good. So, from your deepest wisdom, has this being fully transformed all the matter and energy that was in this layer of the Enneagram wound in the service of your soul?
Yes.
And have you not from your deepest wisdom?
Oh.
All right, so where do you feel the energy in your body now?
It's migrated up from the upper chest into the back of my head.
All right, so from your deepest wisdom, is the energy in your upper chest up through the back of your head?
Yes.
And is it not from your deepest wisdom? And from your deepest wisdom, does it have a greatest hope it would like to share with you now that you've recycled it?
Perfection.
Ah, muscle test and ask, is that right? Sweet. And is it not from deepest wisdom?
Oh.
And anything else it wants to add about its greatest hope for you from your deepest wisdom?
Not to be afraid.
Oh, ooh, that's a good use for it, right? And from your deepest wisdom, is there anything else it wants to say about its greatest hope for you now that it's been recycled?
God is good.
Oh. And from your deepest wisdom, is there anything else the energy wants to say now that it's been freed?
No.
All right. Thank you. All right, Daniel. Now let's talk to your energy and see if it has any messages for you about the meaning of life. Everybody muscle test. Check to see if your energies have any messages about the meaning of life. You just went cosmic. You just reached the ends of the universe. Let's see if we've got any messages about the meaning of life. From your deepest wisdoms, does anybody's energy have a message for you about the meaning of life in general? Okay. All right, Celia, write down the message about the meaning of life. And then everybody else, there's one more question I want you to ask. Ask if it has any messages for you about the meaning of your life in particular. All right, anybody, does the energy have any messages for you about the meaning of your life in particular? All right, so write those messages down. Just channel any additional messages about the meaning of life in general or the meaning of your life in particular. All right, so Celia, let's hear about the meaning of life from your energy.
Okay, well, the meaning of life was it is that it's safe and that I'm safe. And the meaning of my life is that my path is safe.
Oh my. Safe. That's really nice. Well, how does that feel?
Well, it feels great because I approach a lot of things with fear. So that's very nice. This is a very nice message, really.
Well, okay, you've got the cosmic download now.
Thank you.
All right. Lissa, did you get any messages about the meaning of life in general or the meaning of your life in particular?
For the meaning of life in general, I got we are all one. And for the message for me is I'm surrounded in love.
Aw. How's that feel?
Wonderful. Embracing.
Okay. Peggy, did you get any messages about the meaning of life in general or the meaning of your life in particular?
Talking about cosmic energy, to be God.
Remember, we're all pseudopod extensions of the collective conscious.
Yeah.
But now you can feel it, right?
Yeah.
All right. Anything else the energy wanted to say?
Healing.
Nice. Without needing to get.
Yes.
Okay. And Daniel, any other messages from your energy about the meaning of life in general or the meaning of your life in particular?
Yeah, I got the meaning of life was similar to Celia's. Be brave. There is no failure.
Remember that was your three wing got corrected.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then for me personally, shine your power, have fun, love it all, embrace completeness.
Oh, nice. All right. How does everybody feel? How does this feel now? Yeah. Look at that. All right. So now, oh, I'm goosebumpy.
Can I just bring up that someone named Sharon asked for you to say a little bit more about how to do this radiating the energy thing?
Well, if you think of your soul like a candle, let's say, and you just basically let the energy of your soul radiate in all directions, because when you light a candle, the light radiates in all directions, yes?
Right.
So it's just like you open your chest and the candle radiates and the light goes through everything. That's how I picture it. So I wanted to say that I have a nickname for upgrading this layer, and I call it putting the genie back in the bottle. Right? Because now several people said I feel more present. Somebody said I feel whole. It's about wholeness. Yeah, you can feel your bodies now. Poke around. Feel this? And when I ask you, where's your identity? Where's Lissa? Where's Peggy? Where's Celia? Where's Daniel? Where do you point? Where are you? Where are you? Point to me. Where are you? Right? Daniel, you pointing to your chest because I can only see your head. Right. And Peggy, she's in the middle and she can feel her whole aura around her. Right? She's here. So you're back in the bottle. Now, I give people homework. I say, now that the genie is back in the bottle, and now that your identity is here and not in other people's eyes, ask yourself, which is here, what do I want that would make me happy? Me, this one. And as of today, you are now capable in this lifetime of having a two-way relationship. Instead of a person and a ghost, we now have two people present. So as of today, you are now capable of actually having a two-way relationship with somebody. And if you want to do something with somebody, and somebody says, well, what would you like to do? Blah, blah, blah. Now you ask yourself, first of all, well, what do I want to do? You send it here. What do I feel like doing? What would make me happy? And then you put out your answer. And then you say, and what would you like to do? And notice that this is different from the usual pattern of when somebody asks you what you want to do, you immediately think what answer would please them. Right? Now you say what you would want to do. And you ask them what they would want to do so you don't appear selfish. And then you put both items on the table and you negotiate a win-win that makes both of you happy. And that's called a relationship.
And as someone who's been through this process, what you're likely to notice is that you feel a little bit high after this, and that you're sort of floating. And a while from, and you'll get used to that. And a while from now, tomorrow or the next day, you're going to wake up and you won't feel high, you won't feel that high. And that's when to be watching for these changes in behavior, because you very quickly acclimatize to this new space. But that doesn't mean that you lost it. It just means, wow, okay. So you might have other layers, but it's just, you're at this new place.
All right, now here's a little test. Go back to a time when somebody criticized you and you felt devastated. Got one? All right, start that scene again. Go into that scene, the you who you are now, and run it again with this energy recycled, and then tell us what you notice. All right, Celia, do you have an example? All right, share with us. What do you notice?
Well, the first thing was it was hard to find an example, which is so unusual because I can normally find, criticize, the past criticism like this. So first of all, it took longer to do it, but I found one. It wasn't a big one, but certainly I felt more powerful in it, thinking back on it. So it was very different than rehashing all of my shoulda, coulda, woulda, oh, if I'd only, and all the rest of it. So. Cool.
Right. And when they gave their opinion, they were critical of you. What did you say to yourself inside? What did you think about it? How did you perceive it now?
Now yes. I guess I had some distance from it. I'm it's like this really. But certainly in the past, it's not that I necessarily would have taken on board, but I would have wondered, why did they think that about me? What can I do? Whatever, blah,
Right. Looping, obsessing. Yes. All right. Peggy, do you have an example?
I went way back to when I was a child. And it was my mother who was criticizing me. And a very strange thing happened. It was just like, I didn't say anything. It was just somehow my being somehow made her think differently.
Yeah. And she might have said the same thing, but your feeling about it was, your attitude about it was what?
That it didn't have that huge effect.
Right. Okay, Lissa, do you have an example?
Yes, I do. In one of my relationships, I felt incredible shame in that moment. And going back to that now, I feel stronger and not as taking on that other person's anger and their energy.
And your attitude about what they said about you now is?
Oh, well, that's your thing. It ain't mine.
Perfect. Daniel, do you have an example for us?
Yeah, I relived something that happened this year that was extremely unpleasant, and it felt like I wasn't looking down on anybody, but it was just like well, I do work in a prison, and sometimes we're treated like inmates. We work there,
Oh.
and that line came to me from Shawshank Redemption, where the Tim Robbins character is talking about how they can't take hope. and it was kind of like it felt like it wasn't like I was in the one down position. It was just like I was just presenting where I was coming from, and it wasn't I wasn't going into that inherently flawed space of the Enneagram 4 that I do a lot or have done. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that was very good.
All right. So I wanted to tell you that now that you're inside your body, your sense of identity is here. You now, for the first time in your life, can hold boundaries. You're inside, so you are you and they are them. And since your sense of identity does not depend on their opinion, notice how, in every case that we heard, when somebody criticizes you, you say things like, well, okay, I didn't take it in. Well, okay, that's their opinion. Okay. So it is. As opposed to, obsessing, what did I do wrong? How can I please them? Oh my God, they saw me like this. Oh, I feel like nothing. Nobody went there. So that's permanent, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, that's permanent. You're you, they're them. You have your opinions, they have your opinions. You know what makes you happy, they know what makes them happy. You now have to communicate.
So that was a privilege to be able to watch. I mean, it was just a privilege to be able to watch the four of you transforming this energy. And thank you for being willing to volunteer. And I'm noticing that we're running out of time. In fact, we have kind of run out of time, but we want to give a little bit of time to answer some questions and to talk about a couple of things. But I just really wanted to thank the volunteers for being willing. That was really terrific. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I feel blessed. Thank you so much. But everybody who's a 2, 3, and 4, watch this. Upgrade with us. Share this with your friends. Spread it. Let no human being that we know of suffer from this. Thank you very much.
So there's a few things that I just want to bring up that were questions. And I think the first one that I want to bring up is someone who asked, will we be saying how to do this if you're a 5, or if you're a 7, or if you're a 9? And one of the things that I wanted to bring out is that, you know, Judith was willing to be able to do this to show everybody how this works. And it's one of those things that unless you see it work, you're not going to believe that it's even possible. And so what she also is willing to do, which I'm so grateful for, is we came up with this idea of doing a 9-part series. So there would be 9 hour-and-a-half sessions where she starts with the major issues for 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, 6. So there's one for the major issue of each Enneagram type.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to show you. Let's see, I have it somewhere. Hold on, I actually have the list of the layers that we're going to transform. Mission of mercy for each type, right? Mission
Right.
of mercy for each type. Oh, let's see, where did I put it? Got it. Here it is. Okay. Right, here we go. Screen share. Because I can. Okay, yes. So, and you will all recognize this. The Enneagram 1, the perfectionist, the critic. Help me, God. They run I'm unlovable. And every type runs I'm unlovable, but the Enneagram 1s run it with such an edge that it's just painful. So we upgrade the I'm unlovable layer of code for the Enneagram 1s. The helper giver I'm going to do the 2s again, and the 3s again, and the 4s again. The helper giver, the next layer of code. I yearn for the freedom from being scared that if I'm alone, I'll be destroyed. This layer of code actually causes people to subtly enable the people they're trying to help into degenerating. So you don't want to be causing the people you're trying to help to degenerate, so we need to upgrade that layer of code. The 3s, the achiever, the succeeder, I create failure. Very painful. We'll upgrade that. The tragic romantic, I'm defective, I'm special. Daniel, that's the next layer of code for you. You recognize it. He's smiling. Number 5, the observer, I'm rational or I'm nothing. We're going to process some of the emotion processing codes because remember the head points, they're cut off at the neck and they're stuck in their head. They have trouble making emotional connections with people. So we're going to fix the emotional connection problems, the head-heart connections, and the 5s. And the 6s, I can't trust. Very painful. I can't trust. The Enneagram 7s, I dodge anything that's emotionally painful. So they come across as shallow and they have trouble dealing with pain. The Enneagram 8, I can't rest or I'm useless. And this is the layer of code that actually drives 8s into burning out. And they develop diseases of fatigue. They get chronic fatigue syndrome. I had mono twice, help me God, and so on and so forth. And I'm going to tell you that the I can't rest or I'm useless is very dominant in the 2s. 2s, you recognize the I can't rest or I'm useless? Yes, you do. Yes. So again, there's a lot of crossover. And the Enneagram 9, I'm void of form and loving. It's another kind of void. And you know now how aggravating the voids are. So the 9s, I'm void of form and loving. This is the layer of code that says you have no purpose. Imagine this from the soul point of view. You embody and your top layer of code says, and you have no purpose. Really? So anyway, we got a very good program laid out for each type, and of course, they'll overlap, so everybody should do all of them.
So what Judith is going to be doing, and she's just showed you the layers of code for each type that she's going to be working on. So essentially, no matter what type you are, there's going to be the layer of code that is most likely for your type, plus you share types. So the chances are you're going to be able to transform multiple layers of code if you want to sign up for this class that she's doing. And she's doing it very, very cheaply. So the issue is that, you know, if you wanted to work directly with Judith in general, it would cost quite a bit of money to be able to transform all of these layers of code. But she's willing to do this for what I think is a remarkably low amount. And on the question and answer or the Q&A list, I pasted a link for how to access the more information about this class that she's doing. So you can copy that and paste that in the browser and it'll take you there. Or we're also going to be sending out emails after this to everyone who attended so that they can just click right in and look at it. I think it's going to be amazing. And for those of you who watched and you were like, well, this isn't my type, so I can't transform watching this session with Judith, when you do this is where you see the magic. When you're watching it, it might seem a little bit confusing or it seem almost unreal. But when you do it, as you can see from watching these people who were processing their layers, it's profound. So I hope everyone will at least look at the link on the class that Judith is going to be offering, because it's really exciting. And nobody else in the universe, as far as I know, does this.
Right. I mean, obviously, as you know, all of these people have done a lot of work on themselves. We didn't take the time to go into all the different methods and modalities that they've tried. And today, they transformed. today. Yay. As did everybody else who had this today. Yay. So spread this around. Sign up for my 9 webinar series and share it with your friends. Forward the emails. Let us save the world. Yes? Woo!
Yay. So few other little questions. Says everybody will get this video, question mark. Yes, we are also going to be sending out a link so that you can watch this video, and if there's pieces you missed or if you want to go over certain parts of it again, boom, it'll be right there for you. And someone else saying, I would love to be able to see this for each of the 9 Enneagrams. So wonderful. That was exactly our thought. Let's see. Another one says, oh, here's someone says, but I can't do anything wrong if I do all of these 9 Enneagram exercises, right? I think that person must have been joking, right? Because we can always choose, right?
Right.
And then somebody says when they copy and paste, they get an error message. Oh, shoot. Well, I'm sorry about that, but we will be sending out a link so that we will know works.
We're actually going to send it out right now as soon as we get off the line.
Right.
You'll find it in your email.
Right.
If it's not already there. So click on sign up for the series. It starts in 2 weeks. And remember, we record each one, and you'll upgrade all these crossover layers of your types. And all I can say is every single layer of code for each type is just as bad as every other single layer of code for each type. Nobody has an easy time of it. They're all that energetic, and they all own you and run you. So there is no type that, it's easier to be that type than another type. No, it's not. What can I say?
Good. And let me also say that someone else said that the link that was in the Q&A worked for them. So make sure that you're only copying the link part, not everything. So it's just the part that starts with HTTP. Many people are saying thank you so much, and that this has been very useful for them. One person, Laura, wanted to know, once you do these corrections for your types, do you ever have to refresh them?
No, it's permanent. It's like taking oil out of the body. I mean, it's taking oil out of the ground. You take oil out of the ground, it's toxic, it smells bad, it's carcinogenic, it kills birds and animals, it poisons the land. But when you pump it into a barrel and you send it to a company that adds energy to it and processes it, it gets partitioned. The products get partitioned into many different things. So for example, oil is where my nylons came from. And oil is where my aspirin came from. And oil is what my car runs on. And oil is what's making the photons come out of the light overhead. And once you have nylons, once you have aspirin, once you have gasoline, you can't make it back into oil. So once this is transformed, you can't untransform it. It's permanent for this lifetime. Now, next lifetime, you'll be downloaded a whole nother Enneagram type and have to start over. But for this lifetime, it's good.
So thank you, Judith. We've gone over time from what we promised people, but thank you everyone for being here. And we will be sending out this this video, and when we send it out, it's also going to have underneath it where you watch it will be another place where you can type in questions. So if we didn't get to your question, or if some other question occurs to you, feel free to put it in there. Okay?
Right.
Thank you all. Judith, you have to end it for us because you're in charge.
I will. I feel very happy now. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.